Hello you guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Beth. I make videos all about motherhood and lifestyle here on YouTube, and today we are going to be diving into the topic of marriage. Specifically, how to fight for a healthy marriage when you are in a season with young kids in your home. Whether you just had a baby, or you've got babies plural, or you have a toddler or toddlers plural, or maybe your kids are even past the toddler stage, I want to dive into what it looks like to prioritize your marriage when you are in the trenches of taking care of young kids all day and all night. So today I'm going to dive into 13 of the things that my husband and I actively do as a married couple to really prioritize each other. I am by no means a marriage expert. I am just a woman who had 3 babies in 3 years, and so we are right there in the trenches with a lot of you guys. I've just found that we really needed to be intentional and strategic about prioritizing each other in this season. So I'm going to share all of those with you guys today. I do have 13 things on this list, so I'm going to be rapid fire with this. We're going to dive right in. And the first thing that my husband and I do is turn mundane moments into connection points. When you have young kids, there are a lot of mundane moments in your day, little things that you are doing over and over again, like making meals, folding laundry, wiping butts. My husband and I do take the divide and conquer approach often, because you can get things done a lot faster when each one of you is kind of focused and in their own lane with things. But we have found that taking that approach too often leaves us just doing different things in our house all day long and not really having time to actually connect with each other. What we will usually do at the end of the day now, especially when our kids are down in bed, is kind of do those things side by side. So if the kitchen is still a mess from dinner, my husband will tidy up, I will grab the laundry and pull it out to the kitchen table and fold it beside him while we just catch up about our day and take that opportunity while we are doing something mundane to actually check in on each other and encourage each other or ask each other how our week is going. It's just another opportunity to connect that we wouldn't have had if we always choose the divide and conquer route. The next thing on my list is something new that we have implemented and are really excited about, and it is a spouse first morning routine. I think if anything, you often see the approach of waking up before everyone in your house so that you can have time for just you. But my husband and I had just been talking recently about how we had been missing each other and feeling like it was so hard to find time in our busy schedules to connect with each other. And so what we have implemented is an alarm that goes off in the morning, and the time of that alarm changes depending on how our kids are sleeping and what all of that looks like. But we'll just take the first hour of our day to spend time with God and with each other and to prioritize first things first in our lives. The rest of the day can go by, and if we have taken that opportunity to get in front of God together as a married couple, but also just check in with each other and pray together, talk about what is on our plate for that day ahead, it just sets up the day for success. And maybe for you, a full hour of one-on-one time is unrealistic for you guys to start your day. There are certainly days for us where it becomes unrealistic as well, but even just 20 minutes, 10 minutes in the morning where you guys are up before the kids together and have an opportunity to check in, maybe cuddle, pray before your day gets started, you will be amazed at how much more in sync you guys feel throughout the rest of the day. The next thing on my list is staying connected through short text messages. I think most people would be in the camp where you are typically away from your spouse during the day, whether that's a 9-to-5 situation or some sort of variation of that. I have just found that the art of a good, simple, short text message during the day is a really great way to connect. And the other day he was actually encouraging me in it and saying, even when I don't have a chance to get back to those short text messages, it means so much to open my phone and to see that you were thinking of me and actually took the time out of your day to send a message. So I know it can be a little bit wild with kids, and some days I don't even see my phone, I feel like, from the time they wake up to when I get them down for their naps. But when I do have an opportunity to just send something short and sweet to him, like, hey, how are you doing? I'm thinking of you, I love you, or I'm missing you today. Those kinds of words to just let your husband or wife know that they are on your mind really do go a long way. And I have noticed that we both always just feel more seen, more understood, more cared for at the end of the day when we have been intentional about sending those little short check-ins throughout the day. I will also say that they are a great opportunity to get a little bit flirty, maybe spice things up a little bit for the end of the day, if you know what I'm saying. In a similar vein to that, the next thing on my list is a daily marriage check-in. This, I think, can sound very elaborate and like there is this whole agenda of things that you need to go over. That is totally not what it is. Our daily marriage check-in is basically whenever my husband leaves the office to the time that he comes home, he will give me a quick call on his drive back. And while we are on the phone, we will kind of debrief at a very high level how our days have been. So if he is coming in and his day has been absolutely insane, back-to-back meetings, heavy conversations, I know that before he walks in the door because he's debriefed me on it a little bit. In a similar vein, if my day at home with the kids has been wild and I really just need 5 minutes when he walks in the door to take a breather, he knows that before he comes in because we do this daily marriage check-in where it's literally a 5 to 10 minute phone call to give each other the TLDR, the high level overview of what things are looking like. It's not to say that our days are always insane or that one of us has always had an insane day. Oftentimes it looks like the day went really well. Like, what did your day look like? And just back and forth like that. But I will say that having that marriage check-in before he comes back in is so nice because we say hello to each other and then a lot of his attention goes straight to the kids, rightfully so. They've been waiting for him all day. They're so excited to see him. And so because we have already connected, I feel okay about waiting a couple more minutes for them to have their moment with him, knowing that we will connect again later that night. The next thing on my list is serving each other in small ways. Sometimes it breaks my heart to see the rhetoric online about the way that women don't want to be their husband's mom and like doing things for him that he could be doing himself. And while I do agree that it is important to be competent and to have conversations with your husband about what it looks like to share certain roles around the house, whatever that looks like for you guys, I do also think that over time we have kind of lost this art of serving one another and looking for opportunities to be the hands and feet of Jesus in our marriage for our husbands. For example, there are some things that my husband is more than capable of doing by himself, but I do those things for him because it's a way that I can love and serve him and help him feel supported in his season of life. An example of this is meal prep. My husband is a great cook. He is more than capable of finding recipes and prepping his meals for himself. Something that he has voiced means the world to him is when I actually take the time to think through meals that are high protein, low carb, help him to kind of meet his fitness goals and have those cooked for him before he goes into his week, because ultimately I'm the one that spends more time in our house and more time making meals for our family than he does. And so it's easier, even though it is a sacrifice in my time, to figure out how to make that work for him and to equip him in that way than it is for him to try and figure out how to make that work. I also think that a lot of the time it is a reframing and rethinking the perspective that we take when we think about our husbands and their needs, because sometimes we are really just not thinking about that at all because we are thinking about what the kids need. And because they are not capable in the same way of meeting their needs as our husbands may be, we can just write all of our husbands' needs off. But sometimes and in some ways, meeting their needs can be such a beautiful way that we could actually love and serve them. Another example of a way that my husband has done this for me is if we ever need to swap cars for whatever reason, or I need a car seat moved into another car, he always thinks ahead and he will move the car seats over, buckle them in, make sure the vehicle is actually good to go before I get out there, because he knows that usually when I'm taking the kids out somewhere and I have somewhere that I need to be, it is like high intensity and I'm often stressed. And so the fact that he goes out of his way to think about that and to set me up for success getting out of the house with the kids is just a way that I feel so seen and loved and appreciated by him. The way that you serve each other doesn't need to be these huge extravagant things. Sometimes it's just the small ways that you demonstrate you are thinking of one another that mean the most. Today we are talking about being strategic and intentional in marriage, but you guys know that being strategic and intentional is something that is so important to me in motherhood as well. And that is why I am so excited to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, KiwiCo. We love KiwiCo over here. They are on a mission to really develop a love of learning in children. And to do that, they offer something called KiwiCo Clubs. And these are continuous learning programs for babies that are as small as 0 to 3, all the way up to kids between the ages of 6 to 16. And in each crate, your child, depending on their age, will receive toys or hands-on activities that help to develop things like critical thinking, problem-solving skills, creativity, and more. When your child is part of a KiwiCo club, they get super fun hands-on discovery that kids love. They put all of their crates through rigorous testing to ensure that kids do actually love them. And all of the activities are not only super fun, but they are also built to last. So they create opportunity for endless open-ended play into the future as well. My 3-year-old has the Let's Go crate from the KiwiCo Panda Crate Club. And it comes with this little orange container that you can open up and actually take all of the little wooden orange pieces out. The lid doesn't just come off of it automatically, you actually have to turn it to open it. And the first time that I saw her try and like struggle through the process of opening it, she got really frustrated, but with a little bit of coaching, she was able to figure out on her own that it was actually a twist open. And now I've seen her start to open other twist open things around our house, which is kind of terrifying, but also really cool to see my child learning those real life skills through activities that she's being introduced to through her KiwiCo Club, because the skills build month over month to give them new opportunities to kind of prove to themselves that they can do hard things. The Let's Go crate also came with the cutest pretend play snack set, which has been amazing for teaching my daughter counting in our preschool every day. Our 6-month-old just received the Let's Listen crate for 7 to 12 months, which is really focused on sound and movement. So it came with these really cute play scarves that our kids all the way up to age 3 still love. I feel like they're already taking them from the baby. It also came with really cute wooden shakers that help them to learn cause and effect and really promote auditory development. And as I mentioned, it's very important to me as a mom to be intentional about the toys and activities that I give to my kids. And so to know that even starting so young with my baby, that she is getting the opportunity to engage with research-backed toys and activities that are supporting in her development month over month is a game changer. With the holiday season coming up, signing your child or a child that you know up for a KiwiCo Club is an amazing way to give them a gift that is not just one time, but is a gift that keeps on giving. All you need to do is choose the club that makes the most sense based on your child's age range and interests. Pick your payment plan, whether that is every 1, 3, 6, or 12 months, and then join. KiwiCo has a special offer for viewers of my channel. All you have to do is head to the link kiwico.com/Beth, which I will put in the description box for you guys, and use the code Beth at checkout to save 50% off of your first crate. Again, that is kiwico.com/Beth and code Beth at checkout to save 50% off of your first club crate. So be sure to check them out this holiday season, and thank you so much to KiwiCo for working with me on today's video. Next thing on my list is prioritizing date nights. I know that that is one of those ones that I feel like people just roll their eyes at, because it's like, yeah, if we didn't have young kids, we would be prioritizing a lot more date nights. But let me tell you, this is still possible to do even when you have kids, because while I think it's amazing and sometimes very important to actually get a sitter to go out with each other, to have a new experience or a hot meal together and just connect, it is also very possible to connect and have a really great and impactful date night when you just stay home. For us, it often looks like getting the kids down to bed and putting our phones away and just making time to either do something together that we love, like bake something or do a puzzle. But ultimately, what is most important during those times is just the face-to-face connection, and to put everything else in the world aside for a little bit and just say, right now, my time is yours. So my husband and I do a date night every single Monday night. Sometimes we are out of the house with a sitter. A lot of the times we are just putting the kids down to bed, putting our phones away and connecting with each other. More recently, we're doing kind of like hybrid date nights where we will actually do bedtime and have our kids fully asleep, and then have someone come and just like watch a movie at our house while we go out for the evening, because we found that bedtime can be kind of tricky with our kids and it was kind of overwhelming to leave one person to the job. So that hybrid approach makes things easier, because you don't have to worry about bedtime for the kids, you don't have to pay someone for as much time, and you still get that opportunity to go out and to connect one-on-one. And we treat it with just as much importance as any other appointment in our lives. And so if something else comes up, we usually say, no, I'm sorry, that's actually our date night, and we really stick to it. The next thing on my list is creating family traditions. This is something that I didn't necessarily think about the value of when it comes to my marriage until recently, but I do think that there is something to be said about the way that these traditions and little things that you all share as a family bring joy and unity across the board, including in your marriage. Recently, my husband and I have completely revamped our Fridays in our house. We were feeling like week over week we were not getting enough opportunities to really rest, and so we've created Friday Sabbath from 9 to 5, where all technology goes away, an opportunity for our whole family to kind of slow down. After the Friday Sabbath is over, we have a family night where we either watch a movie together or play a game. It is funny how quickly these little traditions or habits that you create for your family becomes something that you just so look forward to and cherish. And now my husband and I throughout the week are like, oh, I just like can't wait for our Friday Sabbath together, or can't wait for our movie night with the kids. So it's been cool to see how family traditions have become a cool, unexpected benefit for our marriage as well. The next thing on my list is encouraging each other's spiritual growth. This is kind of a unique one for our family because my husband and I are in ministry and my husband is a pastor. So things like weekly church attendance are very much just a part of our core rituals and routines as a family. But if we are not careful, things like reading our Bibles and praying, whether individually or as a couple, can still kind of fall by the wayside for us if we are not intentional about it. And that morning routine where it's kind of a spouse first approach where we can get before God together has been a really great way to encourage each other in those spiritual disciplines. But sometimes it's also just nice to ask your husband what God is teaching him lately, or what he has been reading that has been challenging him and really like spurring him onward. And I do know that for some people, praying with your husband can feel kind of scary because it is a very vulnerable thing. Maybe it's something that you've only ever done by yourself. But I do think that praying together as a couple is huge, and that practicing just getting more comfortable with that is a game changer for your marriage. There was actually a study done in 2010 at the University of Texas, San Antonio, where it was all about couples that pray together. And while they found that 50% of first marriages end in divorce, which is such a shocking and sad statistic to me, and 78% of second marriages end in divorce, less than 1% of couples who pray together daily end their marriages. That is just an insane statistic to me. It is just all the more evidence that prayer is powerful, and that when you and your husband come together before God, it can seriously change things, not only for your marriage, but also for your kids and for the entire trajectory of your family. Next thing on my list is kind of a lost art sometimes, I fear, and it is showing appreciation and thankfulness. I think it is a dangerous place to be in when you just come to expect things of your husband or your wife without recognizing the effort that was put in, or even just having an appreciation for what they do or who they are as a person. Ever since we had baby number 3, divide and conquer really has been the way that we've had to go when it has come to navigating their sleep, because they are kind of playing popcorn some nights and all of them are up at different times. So I tackle night wakings for baby girl, however long they are, however often they happen, and my husband tackles the night wakings for our toddlers. Every single morning when we wake up and kind of check in with each other about how the night went, it always starts with thank you so much for being up with this child last night or this child last night. Like, it just meant so much to me that you took care of that. And I think taking that time to just express gratitude is so important in reinforcing the value that you place on each other. The next thing on my list is allowing each other time for just them. Self-care, you might call it. Obviously, when you have young children, your time is stretched and it can feel impossible to get a moment for yourself. So another way that we have had to be very strategic is in giving each other an opportunity to recharge individually. Oftentimes when my husband comes home from work, he will jump in with all 3 kids for a little bit so I can just have a second to like go and sit in a quiet room. And sometimes for me, it looks like having all 3 kids just hang out with me for a little bit while my husband takes some time to finish a workout solo or whatever he needs to do that day. Self-care and like personal individual time is not necessarily something that happens for each one of us every day. Even if it's not possible for it to happen every day, it is still important that it happens at some times throughout the week. And so when one of us needs that time individually to just decompress or to get something done without the kids present, we are always quick to jump in and say, I've got this, you go and take the time that you need. This next one is always hard to talk about because I feel like people are just all over the place when it comes to physical intimacy after having young kids and what they think is a good amount of time to be prioritizing that, or where they are at postpartum and all of these different things. And if you are in a season postpartum where you are finding it really challenging to approach physical intimacy with your spouse, I would highly suggest watching the video that Jared and I did about postpartum sex. The 2 of us sat down and dove into that topic and actually brought a pelvic physiotherapist in to kind of speak to pain and when to try and all of these different things. So go and check that resource out here. Physical intimacy in a season with young kids is still very important. And I think that some people are kind of just nervous to have the conversation with their spouse in general. And I'm not necessarily going to sit here and prescribe how often this needs to be happening or what it needs to look like, because that's going to be very personal to you and your marriage. But my recommendation would be at least to open up the conversation with your partner about what your sex life is currently looking like. Are you both feeling good about where things are at? Do you need to look for opportunities to find different times in the day to make things happen, or even just to connect, to be at a place where it feels like that is possible? Again, I'm not going to dive too thoroughly into the topic of it all in this video, but making time to be physically intimate with each other is so important, and it doesn't always look like sex. Sometimes it's just choosing to hold your husband's hand, or to kiss him first thing when he comes in the door, or to pause in the craziness and give him a hug. I completely understand the tension point of being touched out with young kids, but one way of thinking about physical touch with my husband lately that has been helping to reframe it, like for me perspective wise, is thinking about the fact that this is not something that is like taking something from me. This is actually giving me something. This is refilling me and refueling me. And so taking advantage of whatever those moments look like to be intimate together is something that always strengthens our marriage in this season with young kids. The next thing on my list is that my husband and I choose to give each other the benefit of the doubt. There is not always time when you have young kids and things are busy and full on to dive deep into why things happened or why things didn't happen. And so when something doesn't go the way that you expect, maybe for example, you asked your husband to do something and it didn't get done, it's easy to jump to hurt and frustration and disappointment, and maybe to approach a conversation about it with that kind of tone. But giving each other the benefit of the doubt is all about choosing to believe the best in each other, even when stress and tension is high. And so in that example, instead of thinking like, I asked my husband to do this thing, it didn't get done, and thinking that they had maybe bad intentions or didn't value you or weren't like really hearing you and what you were saying, choosing instead to think that your husband didn't have cruel or malicious intentions in not getting that thing done, and that maybe there was another reason and that he'd be willing to share that with you if you asked, I have just found it is a much better way to approach conflict as a married couple, especially when life is really busy with the kids. In a similar vein to that, the next thing that I wrote down is that it is so important for us to be open with one another about the challenges or the emotions that we're experiencing. Going on 7 years of marriage now, I have found that my husband is still not a mind reader, regardless of how convenient it would be sometimes if he could just like pick up on some of that stuff. I have to be open about how I am feeling with my husband. Of course, he knows that I'm tired, but if there is something going on in my inner world that is frustrating me, or maybe I'm overwhelmed by that he does not know about, it's not fair for me to build this whole case about him or the way that he feels about me or about our lives in general without bringing him in on that. I have found this to be especially true in our interpersonal kind of dynamic as husband and wife. If there is something that is said or something that bothers me that I don't address right away, and I just think, oh, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal, and I just bury that instead of bringing it up to him, the more that you choose to do that, I find the more likely you are over time to be building resentment and building a case around something that could honestly have just been so quickly fizzled out if you chose to address it right away. Being open prevents misunderstandings. It helps to create a really supportive environment between the two of you. As I've gotten older, I've also just so appreciated processing my emotions with my husband. I have always been the type of processor that wants to do it all myself, and then once I figure it out, present kind of what I had been feeling to my husband. But just sitting with him in my crazy emotions recently has just been something that I've so valued, and it's what our marriages are designed for, to be that place of safety for each other and to point each other back to Jesus in all things. So fight to be open. Last but not least, we need to fight to trust God's timing and provision for our family, for our marriage, in this season and beyond. At the end of the day, when our heads hit the pillow at 11 p.m. and it feels like we are just now getting a second to like breathe and decompress, we just have to remind each other that this is a season. And whether or not we believe it sometimes, it is a season that one day we are going to look back on with such fondness and actually miss. There will be a season where more sleep will come. There will be a season where we're going to be able to go on unlimited date nights and our house will be quiet, and we'll wonder where the sound of all of those children went. All that we can do is wake up every single day and turn to God and turn to each other and trust that He will give us what we need that day as parents, as husband, as wife, and choose to be faithful in the season that He has placed us, including in our marriage. And so we choose to be open, we choose to connect, we choose to work through the hard stuff, we choose to have the uncomfortable conversations, we choose to sit there and to resolve something even though we are both dead tired. We choose to make space for date nights and intimacy, and ultimately we choose each other and to keep fighting for our marriage, because at the end of the day, we really do think that that is God's design for our lives, is to see our marriage flourishing and thriving, and that is also the best gift that we can give to our kids as well in this season and beyond. And so I hope that all of those things can be encouraging to you guys wherever you are at in your marriages. I know that adding young kids into the mix of marriage can be a really challenging thing to do, and that prioritizing one another is not easy. I would just so love to make the comment section of this video an open thread for prayer and encouragement, where we can just come alongside each other and be praying over each other's marriages, because honestly, I don't think that we can downplay the spiritual warfare around marriage in our day and age. I really do think it is one of the ways that the enemy tries to get a foothold and to break down healthy families, because if he can get at marriages, he can get at kids, and he can get at the next generation. And so let's fight for healthy marriages. Let's start to see some of those statistics about first marriages ending in divorce shift. I know that I would love to see that change happen for our children's generation. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Again, I hope that it could encourage you today. I also wanted to remind you that if any of you are interested in checking out KiwiCo clubs for your kids this holiday season, that I do have a discount code with them. All you have to do is head to kiwico.com/Beth and use that code Beth at checkout to save 50% off of your first crate. So thank you again to KiwiCo for working with me on this video. Thank you guys so much for being here. And until my next video, I love you guys. I'm praying for you guys, and I will see you soon.